You know, we're having a very odd start to our daily candle here for ADA and assets around the crypto space, and a very odd ending to our work week. We're seeing some red for ADA. We're seeing some red for everything else in the crypto market right now. Right now, we're down about 3.4% on today's daily candle. We're setting some lows that we haven't seen since all the way back at the start of September. And it seems to be coming off of one specific move that I want to address with you guys, because this is something we haven't seen since all the way back in August. We do also need to talk about some potential pivot taking place for BTC at a certain level. Need to talk about capital rotation that might be coming here very soon as well. So if you guys are new or haven't already, show your support for the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So ADA right now is slightly below this trend, and I don't necessarily like that. I'm not going to say that this is a good move. I will say right now we still actually do have our bullish divergence intact, which is a good sign. So obviously we're seeing some lower lows on the stochastic. I'm sorry, on the RSI. We're seeing some higher lows on the price chart. Hopefully those higher lows continue to hold. I don't know what things are going to look like as the day progresses, because there's a couple things that we need to watch closely. I will say when we did get this breach before in terms of ADA, all the way back here at the early part of August, it was a slingshot for its next move to the upside. Maybe that's what we're building towards right now. Really why we're seeing some weakness in the crypto market is this move by Ethereum. All right. Ethereum actually broke this 4,100 level to the downside for the first time since all the way back here in August. If you guys remember, this was a really big deal. This is what kicked off a lot of excitement for assets in the crypto space. And now this weakness is something that assets are not liking. For example, take a look at Ethereum, down 3.48% today. ADA's down 3.3%. All right. It's very clear that Ethereum is kind of causing this weakness around the crypto market. Now, some promising signs here in terms of the RSI for Ethereum. It's actually dropping down to some levels we have not seen since June. And we're actually making a similar aggressive move to the downside, just like we did in June, right before a slingshot to the upside. I'm not saying this is going to, take place the same exact way, but it's definitely worth noting. And obviously Ethereum right now sitting just back within structure, just below this 100-day moving average, could mean that BTC wants to go a little bit lower. It's also a spot where we could get a little bit of a bounce, and where this is kind of a double-edged sword here. It's going to be a question of what does U.S. money decide to do today? Do they decide to pile on top of all the red that we're seeing in the market, or do they take advantage of the dip like we've seen every time over these past several days? I want to remind everybody, we've kind of been down in a similar range here 3 times over the last 4 days, and we've held up strong there. We kind of gotten a nice bounce. One thing I do want to point out in terms of BTC is we're sitting just above our 20-week moving average, which currently is at 109.7. That is a great bounce spot for BTC. For those that don't remember, that is our bull market support band. BTC, historically speaking, does not close weekly candles below this 20-day moving average, apart from black swan events. This is during bull market cycles. You guys can see, for example, the last time we did this was our major, the largest exchange hack in crypto history. That's what obviously sent us down below there into March of 2025. You guys can obviously see back here in the summer, we had German government selling. We had Mt. Gox news. Remember that big ugly week of just piling on top of there. Apart from that, there's not a whole lot that really triggers these types of candles. And right now, we haven't really had the news to do that. So that would definitely be a spot to pay attention to here. And in fact, Ali Charts is actually suggesting this could be the confirmation of our right shoulder on our inverse head and shoulders in terms of BTC, potentially sending us on a breakout towards 130K, which would obviously be really good for altcoins. I do want to mention as well that yesterday was an institutional buying day in terms of BTC. BlackRock buying $128 million worth. On the Ethereum side, we had a selling day. So we're kind of getting that inverse flip again. Now, what I think is very interesting about this is, although Ethereum is showing this weakness, what's not necessarily showing weakness versus Ethereum? ADA. And this is a very promising sign. Could we actually be in the early phases of phase 3? For those that aren't familiar, phase 1, BTC leading the crypto market. Phase 2, Ethereum outpacing BTC for an extended period of time. Phase 3, other assets start to outpace BTC, or start to outpace Ethereum. So we've been in this phase now where obviously ADA and others have been outpacing BTC. That's why we are talking very heavily about this alt season index, which currently sits at a 67. Just to show you guys where ADA's at, 41.9% up over the last 90 days versus BTC's 4.3%. So we check the box on outpacing BTC, checking the box on outpacing Ethereum, since all the way back here looks like our bottom on August 11th. So those are all very promising signs. And I find it kind of strange that the market isn't really moving more aggressively right now. And I want to just kind of look back and show everyone here. Every time we get to one of these September months, you guys can see we have some sort of significant sell-off, whether it's, mid-month, whether it's late month. It always seems to get this sell-off that takes place right before we get into some exciting corrections, some exciting movements to the upside. And maybe that's what we're prepping for. I do want to point out the fact that gold set a new all-time high. Silver continuing to surge, close to setting a new all-time high. If we look at Dow Jones setting a new all-time high, NASDAQ all-time high, S&P all-time high. So you have basically all these markets outside of crypto that are setting new highs and surging to the upside. And crypto is still just kind of not really doing a whole lot. There's very clear manipulation that's going on in the crypto market. And I think right now, we're seeing a little bit of retail exhaustion. And maybe that's just because we got this kind of manipulated move following the rate cuts in the market. And now everybody's just sitting on their hands and watching and waiting until we get our monthly candle close. All right. Now, this isn't to guarantee your financial advice. I can definitely see that people are tired and exhausted, and I get it. For example, just take a look back here. We're in this kind of lower range of this fear greed index, down in a neutral, somewhat fearful range. That's kind of right where we need to get to before we see some exciting signs. And, even Crypto Rover posted this same Bitcoin playbook as September of 2024. The Q4 pump is about to melt faces. And again, we keep talking Q4, but Q4 tends to be a time where the market opens up and you see some very exciting things in terms of prices. So it's still possible that we could have a nice little bounce here for ADA and other assets across the crypto market. I'm hoping that today, tomorrow can turn into that. But all we need to do is obviously just prepare ourselves for what what could potentially come here. I will say ADA right now below its 20-week moving average. We could close below here, but we shouldn't. We should get a little bounce. Hopefully we can get back up to about 80 cents or so as this week progresses. And by this week, I mean through that close on Sunday. So I appreciate you guys as always. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts below. But we'll see how today goes. Have a great day. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.